Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Chief Robert McDonald, Dayton Police Department. Last night we had a tragic situation happen in town here where a young teenage boy lost his life. Things like that should never happen to anybody, never mind a 14-year-old boy. First, I'd like to send my condolences out to the family members. That's from me, the police department, the fire department, and town officials, to the entire family. It's a very, very sad thing. Let me just brief you a little bit. Last night, around 8 o'clock, we received a call of a pack of dogs attacking a human. The officers responded to the scene along with the EMS fire department. And then what they observed, I'm going to hand this over now to the Bristol County DA, Thomas Quinn, so he can fill you in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Approximately 6 p.m. yesterday, 14-year-old Ryan Hazel was driven by his grandmother to 2477 Maple Swamp Road in Dayton. He was going there to take care of several animals on the property while the homeowner was in Boston. The victim took care of the homeowner's dogs and other animals on a regular basis. The victim's grandmother waited in the car while Ryan took care of the chores at the property. Property is a large tract of land with several buildings. She told police that Ryan usually completes his tasks at the property in 30 to 45 minutes. After more than an hour of time passed by, Ryan's grandmother became concerned about him. She called his parents to tell them he had not returned to her car. Ryan's parents, who were out of state in New York yesterday, immediately contacted a neighbor and asked him to check on Ryan. The neighbor went onto the property at 2477 Maple Swamp Road. He eventually found Ryan lying on the ground in the rear yard, suffering from traumatic injuries to various areas of his body. The neighbor also found 4 dogs in the yard and put them in the basement of the home. The remaining 7 dogs are all believed to have been caged during the incident. The dogs that were outside were Dutch Shepherds and a Belgian Malinois. All 11 dogs were taken into custody by the Rehoboth Animal Control and are being quarantined for up to 10 days pursuant to Massachusetts law. The neighbor called 911 at 7:59 p.m. to report the incident and did attempt CPR on Ryan. However, the injuries he sustained were too severe and he was pronounced deceased at the scene by first responders. Full autopsy will be conducted. Crime Scene Services is assisting with the processing of the evidence in this case. The 4 dogs who were outside at the time of the incident have been photographed. The owner of the dogs and the property has been identified as 49-year-old Scott Dunmore. He was contacted by police shortly after the incident and returned from Boston last night to speak with investigators. He has been cooperative with the investigation. This matter is being investigated by state troopers assigned to my office and the Dayton Police Department. Although this is an ongoing investigation, it does not appear that any foul play is suspected at this time. This was clearly a terrible tragedy for the victim, his family, and his friends, and the town. My heart goes out to all of them. Thank you. I'll take a few questions. Hazel.
What type of facility was this? Was this a training facility where these dogs were that Scott Dunmore ran?
Well, I would just say at this point, it was a large piece of property with several buildings. You know, there were the dogs on the property that I mentioned. He was away. So, you know, the young man had been, you know, watching the dogs and other animals that are on the property. So it was a large tract of land with several buildings. I wouldn't characterize it anything more than that at this point.
Have Dayton police been there in the past, and if so, for what, to the property?
Excuse me?
Have Dayton police been to that property in the past, and if so, for what?
I'm not sure.
Could the chief tell us?
Yeah.
No, there hasn't been any past calls there, except that there was a house fire there, probably a couple of months ago. And, the fire department responded there, but other than that, nothing else has been called to that residence.
Is there the proper permits to have that many dogs on the property, or is there any licensing within a kennel?
My understanding at this time that the dogs were not licensed.
Does he own all the dogs?
He owns the majority of the dogs are on the property. There's an indication that he was watching several of the other dogs.
When you say that Ryan was taking care of the dogs, does that mean feeding them, walking them? Tell us what he was doing there.
Well, at this point, it appears that there was an arrangement through his family and Ryan that he would go and, I don't know the specifics of what he was doing, but tend to the animals there. I'm not sure if it involved feeding or not, but as I said, his grandmother drove him there, and this terrible incident took place.
You said that the dogs were photographed and everything. Does it appear that they were well taken care of? How would you characterize how they were being treated?
I wouldn't respond to that. It does not appear, from what I understand, that they were malnourished, but again, the investigation, this just happened a few hours ago.
Does Mr. Dunmore potentially face criminal charges?
Well, no, as I said, we just started this investigation. It appears at this point that foul play was not involved. I would just leave it at that at this stage of the investigation.
Do you
When
recall
the
the
dogs
last
were
time?
taken, were they showing signs of aggression towards officers?
I'm not aware of that. They were taken by the animal control to Dayton. It appears one of them may have acted in somewhat of aggressive state in the basement, but again, I'm not going to get into all these particulars without, knowing precisely what was going on.
Are these fully grown dogs? Are these big dogs, fully grown?
I just saw a picture of several of them, at least average size. They're not small dogs, but I mean, I wouldn't. At least average size.
And you say they were not licensed. Does that mean licensed by the town, and are there any implications there?
All I would say is my understanding, from what I'm informed, they were not licensed by the town, or the license have not been obtained. I wouldn't get into whether there are any implications. That's not the issue
Don't
that,
know if they were
we're
current-
focusing on.
Current on rabies shots or anything?
Don't know.
You don't know.
When you say that Ryan died of traumatic injuries, can you tell us about how many bites he suffered and to where?
I wouldn't get into that. I would say they were very traumatic.
Has
Let's
this
just leave it
happened
at
in
that.
Bristol County in the past? Do you recall this incident in the past with a dog mauling a person to death?
I don't. You have instances where dogs attack people, but I don't recall a fatal attack, and this, again, was very disturbing.
Is there
someone
from Ryan's family here that could say something?
I don't believe so. I don't think that's appropriate at this time.
Is it legal
But
for a
that
14-year-old to have this kind of job?
would not respond to that. I mean, there was an agreement to help take care of the dogs on the property when the owner was away. And that's all I would say.
Are there plans to put the dogs down?
They're under quarantine for 10 years. That's an issue for, I believe, the town of
10 days,
Dayton.
10 days.
10 days. And that's an issue for the town of Dayton to address, town council.
All 12 of them or just the 4 that were out of the cages?
Excuse me?
All 12 of them, or just the 4 that were out of the
I
cages?
believe all the dogs have been taken
Can you talk
off
about
the property.
There was 3 Dutch Shepherds that were out?
I'm not sure the precise, there were 4 dogs outside, that's our understanding. Well, I'm saying a total of 11, but not outside, 4 outside. That's what it appears, the investigation appears to reveal.
He
me
went there
just-
to do the chores.
Did it appear that something seemed to be different this time, where he was taken by surprise that the dogs were loose and they normally aren't loose?
Not aware of that. I think just to finish the question, I think you said,
I just want to know the breeds, were there 3 Dutch Shepherds or one?
I believe, without being specific, of the 4 dogs outside, I believe,
3 Malinois.
yeah, 1 or 2 Shepherds and 3 Malinois. It was in, but I couldn't say precisely, so.
I'm sorry. Is there any indication right now why he was attacked? Why the dogs were attacked?
The investigation's ongoing, as I said. What we know at this point is he was dropped off by his grandmother. He was there for a period of time. She became concerned. Parents called the neighbor, who, went there and tried to render assistance. So obviously something went, very wrong, but it wasn't clear precisely when that happened. Obviously, sadly and very tragically, her concern was warranted.
Can you tell us one of the agencies that were among the first responders?
Well, Dayton Police Department, medical personnel, Massachusetts State Police. Our office responded. I did go to the scene myself last night.
Medical personnel meaning EMS?
Yes.
Was there a family?
Dunmore's specialty is training. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I wouldn't comment on that. That's not clear at this point. I think he's had, from what I understand, he has involvement in training dogs generally. But beyond that, I don't know.
Aggressive dogs for behavioral issues, or?
I don't know.
Was
How
there a
long
rela-
had the
like a-
boy been training or working, helping out, taking care of these dogs? Had he done that before? Had anyone else
Yes.
done that before?
I was thinking it'd been about a year on somewhat of a regular basis, but I couldn't be precise about it. As I said, obviously, his grandmother dropped him off, so I guess there was some regular pattern of him going there and doing it. I mean, that's our understanding.
Were these being trained to be police dogs? These are police-type dogs, and does Mr. Dunwoody have any involvement with police?
It's not clear at that point. I don't know if he has any involvement with the police. We haven't gotten to that point.
Was he
It does-
training police dogs, or to be police
I'm not
dogs?
aware of that.
Does he live on that property, or he just owns that property? I know you said something about a fire happening there, and him being in Boston.
I believe he lives there. I mean, he came home, he claimed the property. I mean, I don't know what he does on a daily basis, but my understanding is he lives there, and it was reported there was some fire there a period of time ago, so, yes.
Chief, was the fire at the house structure? Because we were at the property, there's a house structure which is empty, except for they're putting it in there. And then there's a trailer, a small trailer.
It was the house. The trailer is there now that he's living in
That's
because
his
he's
residence.
repairing the structure.
How long ago was the fire? How long ago?
I believe it was February. Was it February? I'm not
sure. Okay.
exactly sure, but I thought it was February.
Hey, Chief, some of the neighbors out there told us this morning that they've complained about these dogs being loud and also kind of roaming free. Have you received complaints about that? And can you tell me if there's a leash law here in Dayton?
As far as people calling about the dogs running free, I can't answer that. I'm not sure. And as far as the leash law, I think that there is a leash law here now in town.
Can you have that many dogs on a property?
I can't answer that. I don't know that answer.
Were the dogs in like an enclosure, or were they running around loose on the property?
Last night,
Yes.
as I said, 4 were outside when the neighbor came, and the remaining dogs were inside in enclosures.
So they're running free on the property, they weren't like kind of in like a fenced-in area?
Correct.
That's my
You
understanding.
said he took the 4 and he put them in the basement?
Yes.
And the relationship between the victim and the property owner, besides working for him, I mean, were they family friends? Is that how they got the job? Neighbors? Can you tell us anything about how the two of them interacted?
I don't know the specifics. I guess there was some need on the part of the homeowner and dog owner to have someone assist his dogs. I believe someone said that someone else also may have assisted at least in watching the property, not at the same time, or assisting him. So I don't know of any special relationship other than him, meeting the young man and his family, and them agreeing to have him help out when the owner is not away doing whatever he's doing.
I might have missed this, but was the grandmother still on the property, or did she leave and?
She was in
In the car, I guess, our understanding is did not hear anything but became concerned because of the time frame. He had exceeded that, which he apparently ordinarily did not
She
do.
was parked in the driveway or whatever on the property?
Are there any cameras on the property? How will you ever find out what did happen?
Well, here, the investigation is obviously ongoing. We're trying to provide, within reason, as much information as we can. So we'll continue to follow up on various pieces of evidence that we find, but I'm not going to get into those specifics.
Is Mr. Dunmore being cooperative with the investigation, and has he said anything to police or your office?
As I indicated in my statement, up to this point, he has been cooperative. He met with police last night, and he has been to this point, yes.
When the neighbor found the victim, and you said he was suffering from traumatic wounds, were the dogs on him, near him, or was he just by himself suffering at that point when the neighbor walked him on?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. I think that, to the neighbor's credit, he responded, went onto the property. As I said, all I'll say is there were dogs outside. He tended to the boy, tried to help him as best he could, and given the injuries, it was, he couldn't be helped. So I think this summarizes to this point where we're at. Thank you for coming.